What's up, y'all? Welcome to Second and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast presented by Old City Sports Network. It's your host, Michael Roscoe, and welcome to episode 41 of the show and the second live stream of the podcast. Last week, we had the inaugural live stream, and we had a dope turnout, so thank you for everyone that showed up. And if you're just now getting in this week, welcome. You can watch last week's episode on YouTube on the Old City Sports Network page. And while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as well as check out oldcitysports.com for all your favorite OCSN podcasts, including yours truly. We got Check the Net. Center Ice just went live not too long ago. Flyers Alley, you name it. We got a lot of awesome shows out there. So don't forget to check us out at oldcitysports.com. Don't forget to also follow the podcast and everything on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, everything like that will be ticking at the bottom of the screen here soon after I say a word from our lovely sponsors. And we have such amazing sponsors such as Righteous Felon Jerky. Head on over to righteousfelon.com. Use promo code OCSN for 15% off your jerky. And remember that any orders over $50 gets you free shipping. I saw a full TikTok from Righteous Felon themselves of some dude with just like a fanny pack full of jerky, sticking hoagies in his pocket and doing and going off in Heelys. Those are still a thing, I guess. So Righteous Felon Jerky, obviously an easily portable snack. So head on over to righteousfelon.com. Use that promo code OCSN for that 15% off. Don't forget, we are also sponsored by SeatGeek. Download the SeatGeek app on your phone. Whether you have an Android or iPhone, it doesn't matter. You can download it on your phone and use promo code Old City Sports Network for $20 off of your first order. And finally, we're also sponsored by Warlord Beard Oil. Head on over to warlordbeardoil.com and use promo code OLDSPORTS in all caps for 15% off of your beard care products. Whether you need soaps, oils, trying to grow it, trying to trim it, whatever you need, Warlord Beard Oil has it all for you, readily available, and using our promo code gets you 15% off of that order. And of course, don't forget to check out our merchandise over at oldcitysports.com. We have merchandise from yours truly. There's camping mugs, there's glasses, wine tumblers, water bottles, you name it. We got it all. Hopefully some clothing on there soon. But if you use the promo code OldCity, you get 15% off your order as well. All right, y'all. We have a lot, and by a lot, I mean a lot to talk about this week. I was going to go into some NFL news, but there's so much Eagle stuff going on that I just have to, purely talk about what's been going on. OTAs have officially begun. Another rookie signing, who signed their contract and who still remains. Listen ahead. We're going to dive into tonight's topics right away, starting with that Eagles news. So starting off, the Eagles Autism Challenge was this past weekend, and honestly, it was an incredible experience. The past several years in May, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Eagles Autism Foundation has done a tremendous job at organizing this inclusive event for an amazing cause, which is the Eagles Autism Foundation, which raises money for autism research, education, advocacy, resources, you name it all. It's an amazing cause for the autism community. My family and I participated in the sensory walk that they had. And while it was a little short, which was intentional, it was definitely suitable and accommodating to a neurodiverse population. And we had a great time. It was absolutely amazing. Afterwards, we went on the field, and there were many activities such as vendors, food, autographs from the players. I got hella signatures on this ball here, including Landon Dickerson, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and more. They're all such very nice players, very nice to talk to, easygoing. They were having fun with it. We were having fun with it. It was just an overall amazing time. And probably the most special event, though, was when I took my girlfriend to the middle of the field, got down on one knee, and asked her to be my wife. And thankfully, she said yes. I was a little worried, that there was a possibility of no. I'm kidding. But she said yes. And now I am engaged to the most amazing woman I've ever met in my entire life. So I'm shouting out my now fiance, Summer. I love you, baby. And I appreciate everything you do for me. I love you. The Autism Challenge itself had nearly 6,000 participants and raised over $8.1 million and counting, because you can donate still up until I believe it's May 31st to the Eagles Autism Foundation. An amazing, unforgettable weekend for a cause that hits close to home for me and my family. 10 out of 10 experience. Would absolutely do another Eagles Autism Challenge. I highly suggest to the viewers and listeners that they go to next year's event because it was incredible. All right, we're going to dive into some more Eagles news, but in a twist of events, newest Eagles wide receiver Devontae Parker hangs up the cleats, retiring after 9 years in the NFL. Now, obviously, this makes the competition for roster spots in the wide receiver room slightly smaller, but what does this mean for the Birds? Because we originally signed Paris Campbell and Devontae Parker around the same time, with I imagine getting that wide receiver 3 rotations. Even with the idea that Parker had a long shot to make this roster because of his performance in the past 4 seasons. He was like dead last in some category. I can't remember what it was itself. Thanks, Jay, for the congratulations on the engagement. But this technically opens up the door for another potential veteran signing for a wide receiver slot. I know there's Michael Thomas available. There's Hunter Renfrow available. However, the Birds also just drafted Anais Smith, Johnny Wilson. And with Anais Smith, he's already been praised for his dynamic abilities as a returner with those yards after contact. Obviously, he's got speed. He's got amazing route running. Hell of a returner. He's getting comparisons to Deebo Samuel, who, again, not the most favorable person, but doesn't mean he's not a great athlete. And this praise has been given to Anais from analysts as well as former players. For example, Steve Smith made a TikTok post talking about how he feels about Anais Smith and just giving nothing but praise. And with nearly $28 million in cap space that somehow the Eagles still have, despite all this signing. And this is as of I don't know, mid-May or something like that, where we still somehow have $28 million in available cap space. Should the Birds go out and get another big name such as Renfrow or Thomas, or should they look in with what they got? In my opinion, honestly, we should do the latter and look internally. Paris Campbell has the experience and can be reliable enough at his position, especially since the Eagles really minimally used the wide receiver 3 position in Olamide Zaccheaus, and he still came in clutch for us when the ball was thrown to him. We have, 3 amazing pass catchers with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and with Saquon's, run pass catch abilities, we have a lot of targets that we can use. So the wide receiver spot is not, I think, a huge concern in my opinion. Do we definitely need depth? Oh, absolutely. Especially with the injury plagued season that we had last year. But if Anais Smith outshines Paris Campbell in OTAs, which I will get to more later in the show, we could see him making a day one impact in that wide receiver 3 spot. And honestly, we should save that cap space for an emergency as opposed to getting another veteran signing unless we absolutely need it. The Eagles have made notable mid-year signings in Kevin Byard in 2023 and with Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh in 2022 during that Super Bowl run. Hopefully, we don't have another year plagued with multiple injuries, but in the event that history repeats itself, we can have enough money to sign a big name or player or multiple smaller name yet reliable players if we do need more depth signing, because you never know what can happen. Even as the league tries to make the game safer for everybody, injuries happen. We saw it with our team last year. It was really bad. And I hope that we don't fall into that situation again this year. All right. Probably one of the biggest topics I'm going to talk about next is we finally got to see some footage of the Eagles in OTAs. So I want to dive into what I have seen in the footage and on Twitter and other social media and discuss my opinions, pros, cons, you name it. Well, we're going to talk about a lot here. So buckle up. First, I want to talk about who wasn't there. Some big names that were not at the OTAs. Those include Devontae Smith, Sidney Brown, and James Bradbury were not at the OTAs. Now, remember, for those who don't know what the OTAs are, those are voluntary, little like kind of drills, off-season training activities is what it stands for. Um, Veterans technically don't have to. There's no fines if they don't show up. It's an amazing opportunity for rookies, but you had veterans like AJ Brown who were there, who have really stepped up in leadership roles as veterans. But again, these are not required. They are voluntary. They are not required to show up. But let's dive deeper into these three absences. Now, honestly, for Devontae Smith, I am not too worried at all. He just signed that monster contract extension for 3 years, $75 million. He's got the celebrity charity softball game coming up next month that he's probably planning for. So there's also been no reports of any injuries that he's been dealing with. So his absence there, honestly, does not concern me. Some people are like, oh my God, he wasn't there. He was leaving AJ Brown out. No, he wasn't. He probably had a lot of things to do. And again, it's voluntary. So he doesn't have to show up. And with that contract signing and all that he's got going on, I'm really not worried about him not being there on the first day. For Sidney Brown, now, for those who don't know, Sidney Brown is a DB, predominantly safety, mainly plays safety when we had a lot of injuries in that area. He's still recovering from that ACL tear from last year. And some reports said that he did look good just doing some runs along the sidelines, but he was not actively participating in the activities today. For Sidney Brown, I just want to see him get healthy. He showed a lot of strong upside and potential last year as a rookie, especially with that like 99-yard pick six. Absolutely incredible in the Cardinals game. So he has major upside and very young, very dynamic player, has a lot of potential. Obviously, the ACL tear sucks. So I just want to see him get healthy. I actually got to see and talk with him while I was at the Eagles Autism Challenge last weekend. We were doing autograph signings. I have one of his autographs on the football over here. And, just striking up casual conversation, I asked him how the healing process from his injury was. And he said, quote, "Oh man, amazing." So that's definitely a good sign. He's very friendly and, forthcoming with that question. And just kind of asked about, so again, I'm not worried about that. I would prefer for Sidney Brown to be 100% healthy before he dives into anything, full participant wise. So if that means taking it easy, by all means, please do it. He's also such an amazing and nice dude. He was really nice to me and my family. So shout out to you, Sidney Brown, on the off chance that you ever see this. Thank you for just being awesome and super friendly. And then the third person, we have James Bradbury. His absence doesn't necessarily worry me, But with everything that he's got going on, the reputation he's built up from last season's disappointing performance, um, it surprises. It's very surprising. You'd think for someone there in his type of position and being a seasoned veteran trying to, be a leader to his rookies, that you'd want to be in there getting some reps and supporting your guys. But yeah, he was not at the first day of OTAs. There's a little bit to speculate on, but we'll follow more as we get more information. Again, I don't see any cuts coming for Bradbury in the near future. I talked about this last week about what it would cost financially for the Birds to cut him, even post June 1st. It's like $12 million in dead cap space next year, which we need all the money we can get. So I just still don't foresee. I will be surprised if that cut is made. I still don't foresee it. I see him not getting as much playing time, but I don't foresee a big cut like that. And with James Bradbury being a cornerback, speaking of corners and as well as DBs, taking first team reps at the outside corner and nickel corner positions in 7-on-7s and OTAs in general. These were the three members of that first team group. We had Darius Slay and Isaiah Rogers at the outside corners with Avonte Maddox at the nickel position. This is not really shocking to me at all for day one taking those first string reps. Maybe some people, including myself, honestly, would have wanted to see first round draft pick Quinyon Mitchell taking the outside corner position reps on first team. But Isaiah Rogers does have that NFL experience that Quinyon Mitchell just obviously doesn't have yet, being a rookie. Plus it's day one. So I'm not gonna jump to any drastic conclusions just yet, solely on one day of performance. There's a lot of off season to watch, so anything can happen. We did see Mitchell taking second team reps at the outside corner position with none other than Cooper DeJean, our second round pick, who honestly should have been a first round pick, but everyone else's losses but ours. Cooper DeJean in the nickel position, according to guys like Martin Frank, Zach Berman, and other members of Eagles media team on Twitter. I'm getting a lot of this info from watching footage, researching reports on Twitter and the internet. So shout out to the Eagles media team for providing this information for Eagles fans everywhere. Now, while seeing Cooper DeJean in the nickel on the second team, they also had him practicing at the outside corner position. Again, not so surprising because the organization has already spoken about how they were going to have DeJean practice at not only the nickel corner and the outside corner positions, but also potentially the safety position. He is a dynamic player, could realistically play all three positions, not at the same time, obviously, but he's a dynamic playmaker and could play in any one of those three positions realistically. But in this OTA, he saw most reps at that nickel corner position with some on the outside. I have not seen anything so far of DeJean taking any reps at the safety position. So correct me if I'm wrong, please. I will want to see if that is true. But at least as of today, Cooper's primary role will be at that nickel corner position. As for the final unsigned rookie, because earlier this week, Cooper DeJean signed his rookie contract worth 4 years up to $9.28 million. So congrats on that signing, Cooper. As for our final unsigned rookie from the draft, Quinyon Mitchell, he was balling out in 7-on-7s with that second team. He was providing amazing coverage. They were trying to trick him a little bit. A lot of blanket coverage, and he deflected a deep ball pass from Kenny Pickett while taking second team reps. I think Jacob Harris was the receiver. A young veteran, not obviously a huge playmaker, big name guy, but a veteran, and really good pass deflection from there. I don't have too much information on safeties. other that Avante Maddox saw some reps there. But at this point, I think we have an idea of what the safety position is. There's also still time for that big name signing. We have the current cap space for a big name signing at a big position of need, that being safety. And Justin Simmons still remains a free agent. So for safety, it's a wait and see for me right now. In conclusion, for corners and defensive backs, we got familiar faces in Maddox and Slay at their respective positions. Rookies Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean are turning heads in fantastic ways. And with Bradbury's absence, it'll be interesting to see how the rest of OTAs and mini camps and mandatory camps will go. All right. We just talked about corners and DBs. And before I go talking about the offense, let's take a look at linebackers, specifically that interior linebacker position that if you've been an Eagles fan for a long time, you've been wondering why Howie has not made big moves at that specific position or seems to value that position as much as most of the fans do. But that's for a different day. Taking first team reps at those interior linebacker positions were Devin White, which is no surprise, and Zach Bond, which to me is a surprise. With many talks of Nakobe Dean and Devin White being your day one starting interior linebackers, it kind of came of a shock to me to see that Zach Bond taking those first string reps, especially with Nakobe Dean being a full participant at practice in the OTAs. He is coming off multiple foot injuries. We all saw that last year. You know, he messed up, I think, his right foot and then his left foot 2 weeks later, something like that. Really unfortunate. So is the idea of putting Bond in first team allowing for Nakobe Dean to ease back into the drills off of those injuries? Possibly. But honestly, it's up for debate. I'm not discrediting Zach Bond's playmaking abilities at all by being surprised that he's taking first string reps. It just comes as a surprise after all the conversations that I've been watching about the tandem of Dean and White. Now, in my opinion, I will say that Nakobe Dean really, 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 I'm emphasizing that really much, needs to have a strong year. He is one of my guys that is on my radar. He's got to have a bounce back season, you know, and it's unfortunate, you know, because injuries suck. And I've talked in the past about how the impact of injuries has on players going forward and, you know, their future career performances, such as Avante Maddox, missing like 36% of his games in the past 6 seasons. So it does have an impact. But with Nakobe Dean, number one, I'm praying that he stays healthy. I'm praying that all my guys stay healthy because they don't want to be injured. We don't want them to be injured. We don't want a repeat of last year. But two, this is the year that he really needs to bring it all. Am I saying that his job is in jeopardy? Not necessarily. But I feel like he's under a lot of people's radars and he's got to step up and make that name for himself. All right, y'all. We're going to shift gears. Still talking about OTAs, but we're going to talk about the offense. With Devontae Smith not participating, we have reports that Joseph Ngata, for those who remember him, was taking reps opposite of AJ Brown with Paris Campbell in the slot for first team reps. Now, Ngata kind of surprised me to see him there, but he is a good physical player in terms of size. You know, he was compared to AJ Brown in the sense of like height, weight, stamina, that kind of stuff. So with that close of a comparison in physical size, plus with Devontae Parker's sudden departure, it kind of makes sense for a guy who the Eagles have expressed interest in despite him remaining on the practice squad last year to get in some good some good outside receiving reps. And apparently, Paris Campbell balled out today. So that was cool to see. And with Anaya Smith being present but not participating in events, it gave the chance for the veteran to show what he's got and make a name for himself at that third receiving spot. Because we already know who's got 1 and 2 locked down with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. Right now, people could say it's Paris Campbell for sure. You could say it's Anais Smith. We don't know who that wide receiver 3 is going to be just yet, but this will be a battle that is worth watching as the camps go on. All right, moving on to, I think the last section I have notes for is the quarterback and running back rooms. I think these rooms had a great start after watching some footage and reading some reports. For quarterbacks, you had Jalen Hurts. He was looking quick and agile. Kenny Pickett wasn't looking too bad. He had some pretty good deep ball passes, minus the one that got deflected by Quinyon Mitchell. They were saying he had a lot of good passes and he had some noticeable bad ones, but not a bad performance overall. And you had Tanner McKee, our third string rookie, just with excellent timing on his passes. He's quick and times his really fast passes out really well. So that was good to see him. I didn't see much of Will Greer, so I don't have much to talk about for him. With running backs, we finally got to see Saquon Barkley practice in an Eagles uniform. And all I got to say is that between him and Jalen Hurts, the brotherly shove, the tush push, whatever the hell you want to call it, it is about to go dumb hard this year. Both of those guys squat like 500 plus pounds apiece. They could probably move a Fiat 500 if they needed to with just their legs. But the one thing that I really liked about these two specific position rooms was their fluidity between, quarterback and running backs. What I mean by that is with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, their motions together were amazingly fluid. They looked very natural. They didn't look like, kind of hesitant like we kind of saw with Jalen Hurts in the regular season last year. And again, I attributed that to just poor coaching, not so much a talent regression from Jalen Hurts. But anyway, Jalen and Saquon, it looks like they had been playing for a long time. It was that smooth of like handoffs and passes and screens and stuff like that. It looked pretty smooth. I'm not going to lie. In a post-conference session, Saquon Barkley even said that the day was really fun and that he felt like a rookie again. So I'm assuming that's a positive statement with how much fun he had and working with Jalen Hurts. I'm excited to see more of those two together. I think all Eagles fans are really. Giants fans probably not, but we ain't going to worry about them because that's irrelevant. But I really liked seeing those two guys together. The second and final big name topic for tonight's episode is the schedule release. The Eagles released the official 2024 season schedule last Wednesday. And thankfully this year we have some more 1:00 games. I don't know why the league was not about giving us 1 p.m. games last year. I think honestly we had 3 out of our 17 games be 1:00 games, which to me is absolutely atrocious, but that's for a different day. But let me tell y'all what I think about the current nature of our schedule now. So I talked about the Eagles game in Brazil in a previous episode. That's our week 1 game, so I won't try to repeat myself there too much. I do really like the 10-day gap between that Brazil game and week 2 Monday Night Football against Kirko Chains and the Falcons. With that large amount of traveling that the Birds will do in that first week, I do like having those extra couple days for the team to adjust from all the traveling and everything that comes with it. Not having to immediately go into more practices because you have a game in a short amount of time. So I like that advantage right there. We do get a revenge game against the Bucks in week 4. Last year in the regular season, we beat them in a pretty good game, 26-11. Some weird scorigami shit with that, but only to get decimated by them in the wild card. So hopefully under a new scheme on both sides of the ball, the Bucks won't be able to read the defense like a large print book, and they struggle against us. Now, after that, we'll already have a bye week. We have a week 5 bye week. I don't even think I've ever seen a bye week that early. I could just be wrong. But I feel like that's so damn early. Like, what the hell is that? You want us to play 4 games, think that, oh, that's too many, so you guys need a break. But then think it's cool for us to play 12 consecutive games? Yeah, that's totally cool. That's not annoying or anything like that. That's fine. That's fine. Anyway, week 7 brings about our first divisional game of the season, as well as the first Saquon Barkley revenge game, as the Birds will take on the Giants at MetLife. So it'll be interesting to see that homecoming game. I'm canceling any plans that come about that day to watch that game. I am hype as hell for that. I'm not missing that for anything. Then after that, we got some random like AFC games against the Bengals and the Jags. Both I think will be really good games. And then week 10 brings our first meeting with the Cowgirls. I'll need to have a few of my Dallas friends, shout out to you, Vanessa and Kyle, on the show for that game, for all the banter and the shit talking, because you put Eagles fans and Dallas fans together in a room. The conversations aren't always PG. But this Dallas game starts my biggest issue with the schedule. So we have 3 games, Dallas, Washington, and the Rams, all over the span of like 13 or 14 days, including only 4 days between the Dallas and the Washington games. So not only do you have 2 divisional games back to back, but you have 3 total games within a span of 2 weeks or less. What is that really? I think other teams are in that situation, but like what is with the league expecting us to make these quick ass turnarounds while other teams are getting like 2 series of 10-day spans in between games? I get it. They're putting us on prime time, which is cool because more people will be able to see us, absolutely stomp in the league. But you don't think anyone's going to be exhausted with those quick turnarounds? I think there's a couple of other teams that are also in this situation. I can't remember who they are off the top of my head. But I imagine that their fans aren't thrilled with it either. And to top it all off, this is, the cherry on top of all this, schedule madness. We end the season with Dallas, Washington, and the Giants. 3 back-to-back division games to end the season. You're kidding me, right? Like, this is a joke. This is some kind of cruel prank. Am I on Punked with Ashton Kutcher or something like that? Sure. 2 of those division games are against Washington and the Giants, which you could say are easy wins, historically, but y'all saw what happened to us against the Giants last year, right? We got absolutely embarrassed in the final season or the final game of the season by them, and we lost Sidney Brown to injury. An unnecessary injury too. I mean, all injuries are unnecessary, but like you didn't have to be playing in that game. Anyway, it was a shit show. And that final stretch makes me a little nervous. I'm not going to lie, but I'm not totally pessimistic about it. We were able to outlast the Commanders twice last year and then split the series with both New York and Dallas. All of that with bad offensive play calling and piss poor defensive schemes from guys who honestly probably should not be defensive play callers in the NFL ever again in their lives. But that's just me. Wade, Bird Gang, let's go Birds. But this time with better coordinators in Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio on both sides of the ball, that gives me a glimmer of hope that the divisional stretch to end the season won't be a bad one. All right, y'all. And that's actually all of my talking points for tonight. Thank you for those who have joined the live stream. And for those who typically listen to the audio, this audio will be uploaded by tomorrow so that you'll be able to listen to it. Once again, thank you so much for joining. If you want to follow us on the socials, they are ticking at the bottom of the screen. Go ahead and follow all the Old City Sports social media. They got Facebook, they got Instagram, they got Twitter. as well as the podcast socials that are ticking at the bottom of the screen. We have a Twitter, Insta, YouTube, and those are all under the same name at Second and 15. And then we are also on Facebook with the full podcast title, Second and 15, a Philadelphia Eagles fan podcast. So that does wrap up my show for tonight. Again, thank you all so much for coming out and supporting. I really do appreciate it. It helps the network, it helps the show. And I love just bringing y'all Eagles content. This is one of my passions. This is something I love to do. This is something I look forward to each and every week, just getting on here and talking to y'all, talking about our awesome sponsors, talking about all the NFL and the Eagles stuff that has been coming across. There's never really an off season in the off season. So I appreciate y'all giving me the support and love. And that ends today's show. Don't forget to stay fly like an eagle. And as always, go birds.